Hi, today I want to talk to you about the United States passport and the changes that have been occurring over the last 7 years. My name is Deborah Valerie, and I am the founder of the 60 Plus Black Women Expats group. And that group is designed for senior women. You don't have to be 60, but you have to be, the information shared there are for those of us who have already retired or soon to retire and have dreamed of living abroad and want to get the information to realize that dream. Now, many in the group have lived abroad for a number of years, and there are Black communities all over the world. And so this group was created to bring all the seniors women together in one group to share that information. Because if you're becoming an expat, an expatriate, which means you are leaving the US for the very first time to live abroad. So an expatriate is just someone who lives in a country that's not their birth country or where their citizenship is held. And so they are called expats, short for expatriate. And so this group is not identified by location as most expats groups are. There's the Black expats of Panama, the Black expats of Mexico, and just about every other location. We are identified by age group and gender, Black women expats. And so we have members from each and every one of those groups that are willing to share with those of you who are, myself included, that are making that big move for the very first time. Many of us have traveled throughout our careers, but this is the first time we actually want to live for a period of time out of the United States. So if you fit that criteria, the link is below for you to join the Black Women Expats group. Doesn't matter if you've lived abroad forever or for a very long time. You just have to be willing to share that information and find the people in your community that you haven't run into yet. Facebook is great for that. And if you are just starting out and in the planning stages and won't actually be making that move for another couple of years, but you want to get all your ducks in a row and get everything done, because it's not something that you're just going to get up and do. You do have to plan. And I don't know about you, but I love getting advice from people who look like me and are in the same age bracket. So now I'm going to get into the topic of this talk, and that's the United States passport. Who needs a passport? Most Americans don't need a passport. But if you intend to travel abroad, if you're going to take a cruise out of the country or a vacation, then you've already know that you would need a passport if you've done that before. Or if your job had to travel out of the US, you have a passport. What is a passport? It is the most vital document when traveling from one country to another to identify who you are and where you're coming from, what's your country of origin. Hence the name. You use that passport at the point of entry of that other country and leaving your country. So you are passing through two ports. That's what your passport is for. Kind of like your driver's license. If you're driving throughout the United States, that driver's license will identify what state you actually is your residence. So it has a photo ID, it gives your address and your age, and it tells them who issued it. So that's what your passport does on an international level. It tells them what country you came from, your name, your age, your photo, your address. So a passport is a very important document. Now, the United States passport has an expiration, a term of 10 years before you have to renew that passport. However, if there's a major change, if your last name is changing because of marriage, divorce, or for whatever reason, then the information on that passport has to be accurate. There are different colors of passport. The blue one, you probably only seen the blue one because that is considered the regular passport, tourist passport, and that would be just for a normal citizen who wants to travel abroad. There is a black passport that is for diplomats traveling overseas, and then there's a maroon burgundy type passport, and those are for those who are going abroad to do a certain type of work. And so I won't be covering that. I'll be covering just the regular passport. I want to look at my notes to make sure that I am covering everything. A little history of the United States passport. It wasn't until 1918 that the United States required a passport for entry into this country. And so before that, the only people who needed a passport were people who were trying to come into the country during World War One and the Civil War. Of course, you had to have a passport. You had to know where you were coming from. And let's see. So it's a permit. Now, the power of a passport, and that's my YouTube channel is called Passportability, because you want a passport. The value of a passport is determined by the number of countries that passport will let you enter without having a prior visa for that country, or you can get it up on arrival in that country. The United States and the United Kingdom were at the top of that list for a very long time. However, in the last 7 years, the United States as well as the United Kingdom have continually declined. Now, the ranking is done by Henley Passport Index. They issue that ranking annually, and then there is also one other ranking system, and that's the passportindex.org. The Henley report is the one that is used most often and recognized. And the information used to rate the countries comes from ITA, which is the International Airline and Travel Association. They gather that information as well as the research done by the research team of the Henley Index. Okay, just some facts you might be interested in. Now, I'll give you the top 8 ranking, and you might be surprised as where the United States comes in. As of January 12th this year, the one at the very top is Japan, and Japan has held that position for the last 3 years. Number 2 and number 3 is kind of a toss-up between South Korea and Germany. And both of those, well, Japan, with a passport from Japan, you can enter 191 countries. So the ranking identifies how many countries you can enter of the 199 countries and the 217 travel destinations. So 199 countries you can enter with the Japan passport without a prior visa or upon getting a visa on arrival. So that's pretty powerful. Number 3, because South Korea and Germany go back and forth for, depending on the index, as 1 and 2. Henley ranks Singapore as number 2, and the Passport Index ranks Germany as number 2. Number 3 is, again, either Korea or Germany. And number 4, okay, and the number of countries that you can enter with Singapore is 190. The number that you can enter with the passport from South Korea or Germany is 189 countries. Number 4, Italy, Finland, Spain, Luxembourg. You can enter those countries without a prior visa with just a passport 188 countries. Denmark and Austria, 187 at number 5. Number 6, Sweden, France, Portugal, the Netherlands, and Ireland. Those passports from those countries, you can enter into 186 other countries. At number 7 is Switzerland, Norway, Belgium, New Zealand, the United Kingdom, and finally, the United States. The United States and the United Kingdom used to be at the very top, but for the last 7 years, there's been a continual decline of the number of countries who will let you in with just a U.S. passport without requiring a prior visa. And the news is even worse because during COVID and how this country handled COVID, there are actually less than 75 countries, because it's usually at the rank number 7, it was 185 countries that you could enter without with just a passport. But because of how this country handled COVID in the eyes of the world and some of the political decisions that were made in the last 4 years, that number has dropped to less than 75 countries that you could enter without a visa from the United States. That was kind of shocking to me. So I hope you stayed to the end to just find that out. Now, the U.S. passport is still a very valuable document, very powerful document, and will give you access to 185 countries, but only 75, less than 75 of those will just take that alone. You'll have to do the further consideration to get a visa, a prior visa, before entering those countries. So if you're planning travel and you're planning becoming an expat, it's not something you want to wait till the last minute to do, to find out what the requirements are for you to enter that particular country. Now, in terms of time frame of applying for a passport for the very first time, or even renewing your passport, normally it's 10 to 12 weeks from the time it arrives at the passport office. The processing time is 10 to 12 weeks. You could pay an additional $60 and get an expedited one, but that's only 6 to 8 weeks. It shortens it by only that, 6 to 8 weeks. And unfortunately, due to the pandemic and COVID, both of those timelines have been expanded. It's going to take a lot longer. So it's not something you want to wait till the last minute to do. So that's a little information, because regardless of what country you're going to, you have to have a current, accurate passport in order to leave this country and enter that country. So I hope you found that information helpful, especially if you're doing this for the very first time. And so stay tuned. I'll be discussing what are those less than 75 countries are that you do have access to without a visa in the next video. Now, again, if you fall into that criteria of wanting to become an expat and want information from women that are a whole lot smarter than I, because they're already living abroad, and find that community that will be willing to greet you when you get there, or have friends when you get there, be sure and join. Go over to Facebook. The link will be below to join the 60 Plus Black Women Expats group. Until the next time, stay safe. Bye.